Hi, my name is Ashley Williams, and I'm here to speak with you all today about the U.S. and its role with climate change. Climate change can be defined as a change in global or regional climate patterns. In particular, a change is apparent from the mid to late 20th century and onwards, and is largely attributed to the increased levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide produced by the use of fossil fuels. Climate change is a hot topic right now in the United States, as there's been a resurgence in some people believing that climate change is not actually real. However, 3/4 of Americans do believe that climate change is real and it poses a threat to the American lands and its people. In the past administration, there was great movement in slowing the climate change from our country. There was funding for research and clean energy projects, and also a plan put in place to reduce carbon emissions from our country. However, under the Trump administration, every effort to move in a better direction is being moved backwards. On June 1st, 2017, President Trump announced his intent to leave the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is an agreement between all the countries in the world saying that they will work on reducing their carbon footprint from each individual country. His decision is disastrous because the United States produces 17.89% of the world's emissions in carbon. So that is not the direction that we need to be moving into, and that's not what the American public believe is the correct choice. The government needs to realign with the public and come about with a cohesive plan in reducing our tendency to use fossil fuels, while also coming up with a plan put in place for public service campaigns to notify and educate the American public on what the individual can do to reduce their carbon footprint. Climate change and global warming are synonymous terms that get used interchangeably by the American public. Scientists for years now have explained that the rise in global temperatures is due to humans and our everyday life. With a heavy reliance on fossil fuels, it's become apparent through major storms, droughts, and heat waves that there needs to be better plans in place so the climate situation doesn't continue to worsen. This is the drought monitor from 2012, which happened to be a really rough year for this country in terms of drought. This is the 2018 named storm tracks, and there was actually 2 more named storms last year than there was the year overall, on average. During the Obama administration, the global financial crisis struck in 2008 to 2009. Right after this period, many countries of the world, including the U.S., was trying to come up with ways to boost their economy again. They came up with the fact that they need to start putting money into renewable and clean energy sources. In an article written by Louis Mundaka and Jessica Luth Richter, they studied the effects of several programs that were put into place by the ARRA, and that is the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. Under that act, the U.S. spent $840 billion, with $92 billion being spent on clean energy alone. Out of that $92 billion, $21 billion was being spent on just renewable energy resources. Clean energy can be defined as wind power, solar power, and hydroelectric power. Obama put into place a few lofty goals, and with that, 2 stimulus programs brought out of that act. The 1603 Cash Grant Project and the 1705 Loan Guarantee Program. The 1603 program was made up to provide many small projects focused on wind energy, while the 1705 program was allowing larger, bigger projects, but fewer projects for the solar power industry to be funded. Not only did the government fund these, but also the private sector and private companies jumped in, as well as co-lending banks to fund all these projects. Through 1603, nearly 76,000 projects were granted money. In the 1705 program, they allowed 21 renewable projects to be funded. 1603 created 52,070 to 75,000 new construction jobs between 2009 and 2011. It also created 5,100 to 5,500 annual jobs for the operation of the projects that have already started for the lifetime of those. The ARRA created 72,900 jobs for this country. In fact, as of Q1 of 2016, 3.4 million Americans were employed by the clean energy industry, where 3 million Americans were employed by the fossil fuel industry. So luckily, we are definitely moving in the right direction. Overall, Obama placed lofty goals on this country and saw better results than he anticipated. Being that the U.S. is the #1 on the World Economic Forum's World's Biggest Economies of 2018, the government needs to step it up instead of pretending like this is not an actual real problem. Dirty energy is energy that is produced by oils, gas, or coal burning. The NRDC, which is the National Resource Defense Council, states that carbon pollution from power plants is our largest carbon producer for this entire country. In 2018, 63.5% of the power comes from dirty energy, while 17% only comes from renewable energy sources. There is definitely room for improvement there. Climate change is affecting, not only affecting our weather, but when it affects our weather, it also affects the economy of the American public. Over the last 50 years, much of the U.S. has seen droughts, prolonged heat, heavy downpours, and floods. Why not spend money on preemptive measures instead of always doing the reactive measure after these events have already happened? Obviously, FEMA and other departments like them will still need to exist because these weather patterns aren't changing tomorrow. However, at least we will be moving in the right direction. Not only do dirty energy sources affect the weather, but then they also affect the health of the American public. According to the NRDC again, if we reduced our amount of dirty energy sources and use cleaner energy, we could reduce the healthcare costs of the American public by $120 billion. Transitioning to cleaner energy would not only have a positive effect on the weather and the environment, but also on the health of the American people. Not only can the government do its part in regulation of fossil fuels, but it can also educate during using public service campaigns to educate the American public on what we can do as individuals to reduce our carbon footprint. Melissa Dunchuk discusses 8 ways in her article, How You Can Stop Global Warming. One of the ways is putting more water efficient fixtures in your home. She states that if only 1 out of 100 households retrofitted their house with water efficient fixtures, it would actually save 100 million kilowatt hours per year, avoiding 80,000 tons of pollution being released into the environment. She also suggests driving fuel efficient cars, but at the very least, if you can't do that, making sure your car is properly maintained. She said that if everybody keeps their tires properly inflated, it would actually reduce our use of gasoline by 1.2 billion gallons per year. Her ideas are a great start. However, the Institute of Physics thinks that there's 4 major ways that the individual can do to reduce their own carbon footprint. It is have smaller families, live a car-free life, take 1 less transatlantic flight, and buy green energy for your home. Many people also don't know, which I didn't either, that if you eat a plant-based diet, you actually reduce your carbon emissions more than if you drove a hybrid car. Do more research into that though, because that's super fascinating. Much like recycling campaigns of the past, there needs to be a process in place for educating the American public with the new technology we have in place. And with it on 75% of the Americans' mind, now is the time to do that. The Obama administration put in great effort into reducing the carbon footprint by this country, and it should not be undermined by this current administration. Focusing more money on renewable energy sources has proven positive for this country in not only producing more energy efficient ways of producing our power, but also by bringing money into our economy and producing more jobs. Provided for the new research, it is not going to be easy because a lot of interest groups that also support the fossil fuel industry support Republicans in our Congress as well as the president himself. However, it will be for the greater good of this country and its people. Public service campaigns have had tremendous positivity in the past, and this government needs to think bigger in regards to the new information that we have and how each individual American can make their carbon footprint smaller. Releasing more fact-based information that is easily accessible and straightforward will be great for the generation currently and generations to come. This country and its citizens do not have time to be stagnant or worse, regress in their policies on global warming. Call your congresspeople today and stress the importance of this issue to them and how important it is to your family, friends, and your community. Here is the list of your congresspeople in your area. Call today. Thank you.